Good evening. I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. Larry Kudlow, CNBC and Kudlow Radio on the Weekend, joins me, my colleague and co-host. Larry, a very good evening to you. I mention, because I've watched Twitter during the day, and I read the headlines, and I dutifully go to the CNBC site, and I watch the flash of the markets, that there's been turmoil in overseas markets these last days. Shanghai and Shenzhen, those are not markets easily available to American investors, but in any event, they speak to the Asian miracle of China, and there's a bear market there. But mostly the Grexit story, and now officially I read on all the websites, Greece has failed to pay its what it owes for the next round, the next tranche, or the next promise for the IMF. Therefore, Greece is now in arrears. This means that we're headed to more tough talk in the IMF and the EU and the Euro. However, I want to connect this to our economy. Does it, Larry? Is this part of the story why I see Janet Yellen or some member of the Federal Reserve saying, maybe not a rate hike this year, maybe we'll wait? Good evening to you, Larry.
Good evening, John. I wouldn't listen to anybody on the FOMC except Yellen and maybe Bill Dudley of the New York Fed and Stanley Fischer, who's the vice chairman. They're the only ones. And I haven't seen that from them yet. Look, the Greece thing, it reads badly, and it caused a big downturn in the stock market yesterday, but it's really ring-fenced. I mean, it's not spreading. It's not systemic. And frankly, if Greece goes into some kind of formal bankruptcy, even if they have to leave the euro, life is going to go on. I want to raise one point on the optimistic side. I see a lot of economists starting to forecast that the second quarter, which ends today, June 30th, might produce 3 or 3.5% real GDP growth, with some upward revisions in the first quarter. If you get 3.5% in Q2, I think the Fed will continue to aim for their first quarter point hike in September. We don't know that. We don't know what the number's going to be. There's a lot of information that's still missing. The Fed wants to raise in the September meeting by a quarter of a point. The question is, will economic conditions suggest it? I don't know the answer to that, but I wouldn't rule it out. It looks like the economy is perking up a little bit.
We welcome James Pethokoukis, Jimmy Pethokoukis of the American Enterprise Institute, and we're going to fold in this concern about the end of the second quarter, and will growth continue to rebound from the negative that we were given in the first quarter, with a piece that James filed in on the AEI about income inequality, which is commonplace now for the Democratic candidates to mention as part of their writ for the 2016 presidential election. James, a very good evening to you. I go to the very careful last sentence in your penultimate paragraph. During the Obama expansion, however, top incomes are again rising about 5 times as fast as for everyone else, which has happened before. But people seem to care a lot more since their income growth is tepid at best. Why tepid, James? Does all this connect to the Great Recession? Is that why the Democrats are making hay with this? And do the Republicans have a response? Good evening to you.
Good evening. The point I was trying to make is that if incomes broadly, median incomes in this country were growing at a rapid pace, you would hear a lot less talk about income inequality. Frankly, one measure of inequality is a share of income going, to the top 1%, the 1% versus the 99%. And listen, that share going to top 1%, it's about what it was back in 2000. And we weren't in a panic about inequality back then like we are now. Why? Because the rising tide was lifting all boats. Growth was humming, wages were humming, people, that's what people were super optimistic. That's not the case today, where incomes are going up very, very slowly. So listen, if we had much better, much broader growth, we wouldn't be talking so much about it. And it's something that the Democrats are going to continue to focus on. It's sort of the linchpin. It's sort of the ligaments or the tendons, maybe connecting all their issues together. Whether it's raising the minimum wage, whether it's raising taxes on the wealthy, whether it's trying to reunionize America, which they now call increasing worker voice, kind of a fun euphemism there. So it's something they think is working. They think it's eventually sort of penetrating to the American psyche, and it's going to be one of the driving themes in 2016.
Jim, by the way, I like the piece a lot. I thought there's a lot of good info in the piece. I have a question or two for you, but before we go there, regarding the Democratic campaign, so as you've been writing, I've been kidding, Bernie Sanders wants a 90% tax rate. Right. We haven't heard from Mrs. Clinton yet on anything, but she's sort of hinting at redistributional policies. Question, would a 90% tax rate solve the inequality problem?
Well, I think the Democrats say it'd be a good start. We'll start with there, then we'll work on the 90% wealth tax. One foot in front of the other, Mr. Gutto, 1 foot in front of the other. No, listen, it's not only problem it's going to solve is the problem of how to get even slower growth. If you're looking at how to get even slower growth, then a 90% tax rate would be fantastic. Listen, they just don't like the idea that there's these people making so much money, and that's what they're going to focus on. I don't think they necessarily expect that to raise a lot of money. A 90% tax rate. Maybe they just kind of rearrange the goalposts, so when they finally ask for a 60 or 70% tax rate, they can say, at least we'd love to have 90. We'll settle for 60 or 70. Maybe it's a clever negotiating position. But listen, it's not. It used to be kind of crazy stuff, and maybe you could say Bernie Sanders is, he's out on the fringe. Plenty of mainstream Democratic economists are talking about dramatically higher tax rates. And whether or not Hillary Clinton goes that far, that is, I think, firmly within the Democratic agenda. The tax rates can go a lot higher, and the economy will be just fine.
See, I ask it because, I'm writing a book about the Kennedy tax cuts, and part of it has to do with the 1950s, when we still had the Depression era and World War II era tax rate, which was 91%. Now, a lot of people didn't pay it, but actually the average effective tax rate was about 70%, so it was pretty darn high. My point is, with that high tax rate, we had 3 recessions during the Eisenhower administration, 54, 58, and 1960, all of which helped John F. Kennedy run on a 5% growth target and the motto, getting the economy moving again. So do we learn nothing from high tax rates? I know taxes aren't the whole ballgame, but do we learn nothing? We could level the playing field, Jim, by leveling the playing field.
Listen, if you can't even get up to 75% in France, which they tried for about 15 minutes, I don't think we're going to get up to 90% in America. But I think Democrats say it's a nice aspirational target to think about the 90%. We may not get there. We may not get to the promised land, but we can start walking that direction.
Look at the table that Jim Pethokoukis has published at the AEI about real income growth by groups, and he breaks down the period 1993 to 2014. In other words, including the Clinton administration, first and second Clinton administration, the Bush first and second Bush administration, and most all of the 2 terms of Mr. Obama's administration. I go to this. The bottom 99% income of real growth, 1993 to 2014, all this period is 10.8%. The fraction of the total growth captured by the top 1% is 59%. That is not discontinuous with anything we've seen in history. It's all the same. What comes fresh, Jims, and what I think I seize in your document here is that in the recovery period 2009 to 2014, while the top 1% is still capturing 58% of the total, which is about where that's the average for the last 25 years, the bottom 90% is only capturing 4.3. That is created. Is not that number created by Democratic policies? Didn't they do that, Jim?
Well, what's different? What's different there is, listen, the rich have always captured a big chunk of the income.
Right.
And it's just the difference. Everybody else, they're taking more of a very small pie. And if the pie was bigger, we wouldn't care. I think there are policies that have happened since the Great Recession which are playing a role. I think there are things happening before the Great Recession which are playing a role. Have economic policies during this not-so-great recovery been ideal for growth? They certainly have not been ideal for growth.
So the Democratic Party,
right? It's not like we have the greatest engine under the hood, and somehow this is all we can do. No, it really isn't. We can do better. There's long-term structural challenges to the U.S. economy. There's demographics. There's adjusting to educating the workforce so they can exist in a higher tech economy. But taxes, regulation. I can go down the line in problems which we have not dealt with, which have been sitting unfixed for the past decade, and I worry they're going to sit unfixed for another decade.
Right. No, that's a great point. One of the wettest blankets over the economy is Obamacare, and I keep counseling various Republicans that they should be linking Obamacare to the fact that, to use your phrase, the rising tide lifts all boats, not so much. Not so much because, we're stopping people from working or disincentivizing them from working, and we've raised rates on investment and capital, and we've damaged productivity, and there are other policies like Dodd-Frank and, as you noted, the labor unions. But really, the policies have been anti-growth. Let me ask you a question, Jim.
Wait. We'll take a break, Larry, and when we come back, we'll continue. Larry Kudlow of CNBC and Kudlow Radio on the weekend, and James Pethokoukis of the American Enterprise Institute. When we come back, more income inequality, and I think we'll get a chance to talk about big cities and Democrats. They go together. I'm John Batchelor.